Let's get through order Passeriformes. Everything in here is a perching bird, so there is only one order that we are talking about. Pretty much, if I ask the order, you've got a 50-50 chance of writing down Passeriformes and potentially getting it right. The first one we're going to talk about is the cedar waxwing, so named because they have literal wax that is growing out of their wings. And nobody is really sure about the real use of it or the value of it. Both males and females have the wax, and maybe it just, again, is there for coloration, but it's a very unique way of doing it. These guys will have the robber's mask that is solid black against the brown background, and they have a yellow belly. They are yay big. I would put them in the small category. If we're doing, say, small, medium, large, where small is a sparrow, medium is a robin, large is a turkey, or something like that. Hi, Robin. Speaking of turkeys and jealous dogs. Okay, so cedar waxwing. First one, males and females look alike. Okay. Okay, very social. They're always going to be high up in trees. And yeah, they're here on campus quite often. Okay. Next one is our northern cardinal. These guys show sexual dichromatism. So two colors, males and females, are colored differently. The males, when they are adults, are the bright red. The females are the brown with touches of red or orange. Often their beaks look more orange than they look red. This picture is a little bit brilliant. Most of them are not going to be this bright red. It's more going to be like an orange beak. But hopefully you know what a cardinal looks like. And if you at least knew what a male cardinal looks like, the female is very similar to it. But wherever there's red, you're going to find tan instead. Okay, and I do have both males and females that are out on the tables, so you are responsible for both of them. They are very common in suburban areas. Okay, the next one is the indigo bunting, and we will hear them, and the males, we will see them at the tops of trees. They have a very melodical song that always ends in ching, ching, ching. So it's ching, ching, ching. So that's what it always stands out for me. The males these guys are small, okay, finch-like in size. And the males are going to be that solid blue to them, indigo, and the females are going to be solid brown. You might get the females confused with a female house sparrow or house finch. What's different about these guys is that they don't really have any blotching, marking, anything like that. They are really simple. There's nothing that really stands out with them, that they are just light brown or dark brown with no speckling or anything else in the females. But the males definitely stand out just because of their color. Okay, so indigo bunting, sparrow sized. The next one is the American crow. And hopefully you know what an American crow sounds like. It goes caw, caw, caw. I will let you know that my dogs are wrestling in the background, so it's just a matter of time before I have to stop and yell at them. But if it looks like a crow and sounds like a crow, it is a crow. We do have other species of crows around here. There's fish crows that are just differentiated by the sound of their call. That's pretty much it. But solid black, the size of a crow, it is an American crow. And they're everywhere. Blue jay, oh boy, that picture didn't really turn out so well. Hopefully y'all know what blue jays look like. They do have that crest. They do have a collar of black. They've got more black on their face as well. More of gray bellies and necks, grayish white with the blue on the back. Okay, and they are blue jay size, so I would put them in the medium size category with the robins and other blue jays, and sexes look alike. Okay, they're just about everywhere. They are in the same family as crows, so instead of going caw, 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 they go jay, jay, jay. So it's kind of just like a higher pitched version of crows. Okay, all the corvids together kind of look, they don't look alike, but they sound a lot alike, and they're just different frequencies, essentially different pitches. Okay, The next one is the dark-eyed junco, also called the northern junco, also called the slate-colored junco. For our sake, we're going to do dark-eyed. It's got the dark eyes. These ones are hanging around during the winter time. So during the summer, they go far, far up north, or they go up to the top of mountains like they're in Mountain Lake. Okay. But during the winter, this is our most common little finch-like bird that migrates through and hangs out in our part of Virginia. They have solid gray towards the top and then a white belly, and they are very small. Okay. So northern junco, they are around just about everywhere during the winter. Okay. Next one is our song sparrow. And there's a bunch of sparrows that are around here. This one has kind of a striped head where it goes brown, gray, brown, gray, brown, gray, kind of all around. And then they've got a big black dot on their chest. That's really what makes them stand out. They've got a little bit of streaking on their chest too, but look for the big black dot and look for the streaking of brown, gray alternating. And that's your song sparrow. They are very melodical as well. You'll have to learn the call for the song sparrow as well. It's very, very musical. They're not called song sparrows for nothing, and it does take them a long time to learn their call because it's pretty intricate. Okay, and they're everywhere. Okay, the next one are the eastern towhees. This is another one where you've got two specimens that are out because the male and female look very different. Where the male has black in all those spots on the back and the head, the female is going to be brown. Again, that's for concealment. Okay. They are maybe the size of a cardinal or so. Okay. And they're the ones who say, drink your tea. And yeah, a lot of times they're going to be hanging around in shrubs and bushes, and you're going to hear them before you see them, but they will jump out and they are pretty charismatic when you see them. Thank you, Robin. That's enough. So there's our eastern towhee, okay, also called rufous-sided towhee in older books. Okay, going back to another sparrow, this is a white-throated sparrow, so named because of the white throat. Okay, so if it is sparrow sized, if it has a white throat and streaks, you've got yourself a white-throated sparrow. In this case, the streaks are not gray and brown. In this case, the streaks are black and white. Plus, they have little yellow eyebrows. Okay, yellow eyebrows, white throat. You got yourself a white-throated sparrow. Okay, hopefully easy enough. These are around in suburbia too, and they're pretty common as well. Okay, you guys, will you stop? It's hard to have dogs who are puppy-like at home. Okay, American Goldfinch. These guys are one of our latest breeders, so they are still breeding right about now in October, or getting to be October. Very, very bright yellow still, the male in breeding, where he's got the bright yellow plus the little black cap. The females are definitely duller and drabber, but still have a lot of tinge of yellow. The one thing to look for are the white bars on their wings. So they always will have those wing bars, even in winter, even as juveniles, even in breeding. You can see the picture there to the bottom right. All right, so and they kind of, as I described, sound like Disney birds, where they're just so happy. And they also tend to fly in like a sine curve, where they're calling only on, I think, the downswing of their call, of their flight. It's pretty cool. Okay. All right. House finches. Okay, so all these finches are sticking together. House finches, we also have purple finches around here that have just basically more red than a male house finch. But these guys, the males will always have the reddish head and the reddish chest, occasionally red on their booty as well, on their rump, but it's not a continuous red. You can always see the visible streaking. Here is a female house finch. Remember how I said the female indigo bunting is the same size and shape and nearly the same color, but look at the streaking on the female house finches. Okay, you don't see that on the indigo buntings. Okay, although the indigo buntings have the same head color as the female house finch, look for the streaks on the house finch. Okay, and they're all super tiny little guys. Okay, house finches are not necessarily native to the eastern United States. They're actually native to the western US. It makes it a little strange to determine if they are considered a native species because they are native to the US, but not native to here. Okay, they're basically dropped off in New York, just like our starling. Thanks, and we're good to go. Hold on a second. Are you guys done playing? Can you please lay down? Dogs. Okay, house finch. All right, swallows. Okay, barn swallows. I said these kind of looked a little bit like chimney swifts, but remember, chimney swifts don't really have tails. The barn swallows will have tails, and they kind of go off with long feathers to the side. These are also much more colorful than the chimney swifts. This picture doesn't do it justice. This is more of a bluish purple that really stands out, plus the rust color, plus the yellow. So they are multicolored coats, just like Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. You have the barn swallow in his amazing Technicolor set of feathers. Okay, they do hang out in barns. They are also tied to water sometimes. I used to see them like where boats were parked and things like that. Anything that had a roof to it, but maybe easy access for the birds, the barn swallows took over. Hi, dog. So here's Robin. She wanted to say hi for some reason and then fight with the other dog and then bark at stuff. So I will get through this. Work with me here. Okay, so barn swallow has the forked tail. It's got lots of different colors. And hey, look at that, boathouses. That was the word I was trying to think of. And they will hang around like Bissett Park and places like that. Although there are a couple of swallows that are there that are present. So there's quite a few. We've got rough-winged swallows. We've got, I'm not sure if we've got cave swallows, but there's a couple that are there. Cliff swallows is the one I was thinking of that also use under bridges and stuff too. All right, red-winged blackbird. This is another one where males and females are different colors, where the male is very striking. So he's solid black. And when he's in flight, you can see the red patch and the yellow patch. And when he is sitting and displaying, he will expand that as well. So it's really obvious. So red-winged blackbird, except the female doesn't have the red wings and isn't really black. You can see how mottled it is in color. It does have the white streak, if that's helpful to remember, the little white mask. But otherwise, it's the same size as the blackbird and just really super mottled. Okay, and it's that color for remaining cryptic on the nest. Okay, these guys are tied to wetlands, so we'll see them in our little artificial wetland at RU that's close to the Deadman Center. Okay, so yeah, cattails, they'll build nests in places like that. That would be a good place to go look for nests, is in the RU wetland. If you find a nest there, it's a good chance it's a red-winged blackbird nest. Okay, brown-headed cowbird. See, these common names aren't too bad, actually, because look, it's a cowbird. Well, it's a bird who hangs around cows, and it's got a very large brown head. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit. They're usually in rural areas around cow pastures, to be honest. They are brood parasites. These things are pretty bad, even though they're native. They are not considered invasive because they are native. They're just really harmful to a lot of other birds. They do really well with human habitation. So as human influence expands, so did these brown-headed cowbirds. And they have really done some damage to forest interior species that have to be in areas where humans are not having an imprint, and that those places are getting smaller and smaller. But what they will do is they will lay upwards of 50 eggs a season in many different nests that aren't theirs. And the nest owners have to raise the young either with their own, or these cowbirds have already kicked out their the other nests, the other nestlings and things like that. So it's not very fun. But for identification purposes, black body, brown head. And this one also is another mottled-like bird, but it's not as, I don't know, peppercorned as this guy is. And it doesn't have that, it doesn't have that white stripe either. So these guys are more elongated. They're a little bit bigger. And the female has the white stripe. This one is kind of, it's bigger than an indigo bunting, which you might get it confused with. But it's got a real thick, dark gray beak and not much pattern to it. So comparing these things in size, kind of putting them side by side, sometimes helps you figure out which is which, if that's helpful. And I will have both males and females out for identification. Okay, brown-headed cowbird. Okay, common grackles. This is another one that's kind of iridescent, where if the light hits it right, you've got that reflection or refraction of blue and sometimes purples and things like that. So really, really pretty bird. When they are juveniles, they don't have as much of that iridescence, but otherwise they're the same. Males and females look alike. They can be in huge crowds of hundreds hanging out together, and they are a migratory species. Okay. Yeah, they do have a wedge-shaped tail, so kind of a longer tail, but really nothing is going to look similar except for maybe the European starling, but this one is a constant set of iridescence. The starling is speckly iridescence, and we'll show you. Okay. The gray catbird. So gray because it's got body that is gray and then a dark gray or almost black cap to it. So the gray cap bird, but it's a catbird, and it's a catbird because it says in part of its call. It also has like a melodious call too that sounds like 5 or 6 other species, but then it stops into meows and you're like, oh, yep, I know what that one is. So solid gray, both males and females, darker cap, meows, gray catbird. Okay, and I will take either spelling, G-R-E-Y or G-R-A-Y. Just pick one and stick with it. Okay. Northern mockingbird. These are the ones that are able to listen to many, many different calls and sometimes butcher them, but sometimes get a whole sequence of calls from a whole bunch of different species of birds. Anything from a blue jay to a red-tailed hawk to I've heard quite a few variety just coming out of these guys. Cardinals, they can do some of the simple sparrows. I haven't heard them do a song sparrow because that one's pretty intricate, but the more calls they can make, the male can make, the more appealing it is to attract the females. So they're constantly working on their set, their playlist essentially to impress the ladies. But these guys are northern mockingbirds. They have kind of a grayish chest. They've got a gray color. They're mostly grays and blacks, but predominantly gray with black wings. They do have a little bit of the stripe here between their beak and their eyes, and their tails are a little bit darker too. And they are maybe the size of a blue jay, I would say. And very, very chatty, very thin bill, thin black bill. Okay, so a lot of things going on with these guys, and they're very common here in suburbia. Okay, smaller side, we've got tufted titmice, also very common in suburbia, but much smaller, so more sparrow size, except they have that little tuft. Okay, the little crest that's on their head. They're mostly gray with a white chest and neck. They do have a hint of peach that is visible kind of on their undersides, okay, on each side. Right under their wings, it's going to be that peach color. It shows off here as a little bit of blue, but it almost kind of looks like peach. So gray on top, white on the bottom, hint of peach on the side, small bird. Okay, so that's our tufted titmouse. They are everywhere around here. Anywhere there's a tree, there will be a tufted titmouse. Hanging out with them, these are almost always in big groups together, is the Carolina chickadee. Okay, it's hard. Sometimes you get them confused a little bit, and you have to sort of find them in your binoculars before you can figure out what they are. These guys say their name, chickadee, dee, 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 dee. Okay, and they've got the black cap, black neck, black throat, white. So black, white, black, and then kind of the same color as the tufted titmouse for the rest of their body. Okay, remember the tufted titmouse had the gray crest. These guys are lacking the crest, and they just do like a Oreo cookie sandwich. So black, white, black, and teeny tiny little guy, chickadee, dee, 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 versus the tufted titmouse says Peter, 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 Peter. So if you think of Dr. Christmas, when you see this guy, maybe he'll say, what, when he's walking through a forest. Okay. Carolina chickadee. An invasive species, we've got the house sparrow. These are another one that is not protected by any type of migratory bird treaty because these are European. They are not native to here. Again, they were introduced. This one has differences in males and females again, sexual dichromatism. Again, the female looks a lot like the indigo bunting female, okay? But look at the patterns on the wings. Remember, the indigo bunting has no patterns on the wings. These guys have some patterns, a lot of blacks and tans on their wings, and they generally are going to have some sort of tan stripe going at least from the back of their eye further back. So this is going to stand out in terms of a dull, drab bird, but look for the patterns that actually do match the back of the male. The male's going to have a black patch, and it turns out the size of that patch, the bigger the patch, the more likely he is to mate with a female in any given year. Okay, so patch size for house sparrows matters. They also have burgundy on the side and generally grayish burgundy on top. Okay. And they have very simple little calls, just kind of like little chirps and not much else to really write home about there. Okay. You don't have to know that. I was just checking. Okay. So not native, house sparrow. Okay. Our white-breasted nuthatch is a forest species, although they do well in suburbia too. They just need mature trees. They are a bird that you will see actually crawling downwards on a tree vertically because they have the ability to hold on very tightly like that. They've got a black cap. They have a blue-gray back and wings and a white body. Okay, very strikingly pretty, very thin build, very small bird. Okay, so hopefully that, yeah, they're always going to be climbing down. Very rarely are they climbing up. There actually is a species called a brown creeper that creeps up. The nuthatches creep down. Kind of strange. Okay. All right. Here's our other invasive, our last invasive species we'll talk about. This is the European starling. Remember, I mentioned that these guys are iridescent too, similar to the common grackles, but these guys are patchily iridescent. Okay, so the adult is this bottom right picture. That black actually is kind of iridescent. You've got some iridescence of greens that will come out in them. Plus they have all these little dots sort of that's limited towards their back as adults that will iridesce as well, that will reflect or refract light back at you. The juvenile is even more speckly. And that's the picture on the left. I just wanted to show you that juveniles start off even more speckly. And by the time they get to be adults, they are that solid, kind of a pretty, like shiny black color to them with the wings in the back that have that flecking to them. Okay. So that's our European starling. They are everywhere. They tend to hang out with blackbirds too. So like our grackles, that falls into the blackbird category. Okay. 4 more to go. We got our Carolina Wren, and I don't make you know the call for this one, but they say cheeseburger, 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 or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They tend to be very tiny. You tend to hear them before you see them because they are very vocal little birds. They're very small, but despite their size, they're very feisty. They have a very long, thin bill, and they do have that streak of white across their eyebrows, and they keep on going. So they kind of look like they're angry all the time. And they've got kind of a buffy chest and a dark brown back and feathers. And then they have a lot of speckling, essentially, is what it looks like to their back. It's almost like banding, I guess. So on both their tail and their wing feathers. Okay. So Carolina Wren, very common around here. We've got the eastern bluebirds, another species where there is sexual dichromatism. The male is that bright blue, the female is a dull blue-gray on the cap and the back. They both will have that rusty chest. The male is a brighter rusty color, more prominent versus dull. Again, it's because the female is trying to remain hidden, even if it's inside a bluebird box. Okay. They are nest cavity birds, so they will make use of those boxes. And yeah, they breed a little bit earlier than some of the other birds. They can start breeding April or so. Okay, and they can be here year round too. So small size birds, sparrow sized, and they're going to be anywhere you put up a bluebird box, you will probably have somebody occupying them, but they really like suburbia and rural areas as long as there's not too many snakes who can get in there and eat the baby bluebirds. I had them in one of my nest boxes this year. Okay. Robins, okay, different from my corgi, also named Robin. Males and females are slightly different. The males tend to be, their head tends to be a solid black, rather than the females can be a light black or even a dark brown. It doesn't, you really have to sort of hold them side by side for it to be really obvious. And then the male is going to have, again, just like the bluebird, it's going to have that real deep red rust versus the paler red rust on the female, so less vibrant. Male is going to be more vibrant. Okay, males tend to arrive first in the spring and get their territory set up, and then the females come over. I learned incorrectly when I was your age that I thought the females looked like what was on the bottom here. That is a juvenile. So juveniles have speckles because they are trying to be cryptic while they are growing up. Okay, so they start off very speckly on their chest, and by the time they reach adulthood, they have lost those speckles. And again, they have the solid rust colors, whether it is light or dark. Okay, so that's our robin because it is robin shape. And they do not say red robin, yum. Although I had to sing that to a student years ago when he didn't know what a robin looked like. I was a little bit disturbed. So I really hope everybody knows what a robin looks like already and you can identify it. Okay. Our last bird is the eastern phoebe. It's another bird that says its name. It goes, Phoebe, Phoebe. It sounds angry at first, and then it sounds apologetic. Like after it yells at you, then it's really sorry. It's like, Phoebe, Phoebe, after it yells at you. So, and they also are easy to pick out when they're perching because their tail bounces up and down. Of all of the other, these are a group called flycatchers, and they catch bugs in flight during the daytime. Okay, not like our frogmouse and nightjars. They're tiny, as you can see, on the small side, very thin-billed. Thin-billed birds tend to eat insects. Very fat-billed birds tend to eat seeds because you need that strength and that musculature to eat the seeds. Okay, so these are insect eaters. You can also see they have a little bit of bristles around their faces, similar to the frogmouths, but their mouths are pretty tiny. And they, like I said, they when they're perching, their tails are going to wag up and down. And they basically have a white chest and a dark brown, continuously brown body from the head down to the back and to the wings. Okay, so not too bad. That's it. Okay, this is the last of our birds. Hopefully this helped. Listen to it as many times as you want. And yeah, study those actual specimens. Okay, these pictures may be helpful to get you started, but the test is going to be on actual specimens that are in the lab. Okay, enjoy. See you soon.